America, welcome into this special edition of the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, your host. We've got Rod Martin in the house. We've got Dean Owen and a special guest that Dean has brought to us, and we can't wait to meet Rez here in a little bit. But first, I need to tell you that we are brought to you by the Freedom Chamber online at freedomchamber.net. You own a business, you know somebody that owns a business. If you're not a part of the Freedom Chamber, you need to get in there right now, freedomchamber.net. The first question I want to pose to this group, are we going to pool our money together and buy Spirit Airlines? Just throwing it out there. Rod?
No,
Dean?
I think there was a good idea there of immigration buying it and calling it Nice Air.
Yeah, Nice Air. I think immigration should buy it and call it Nice Air. So if that happens, you heard it here first. Go ahead, Rod.
They can make extra money doing that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Amelia. Amelia is the purple-haired girl in a Keir Starmer government-sponsored video designed to demonize anyone who believes in England or wants to limit all of this illegal immigration into England. And she's become a cult hero. All the conservatives have adopted her. The internet is filled with Amelia videos where she's singing things like, speaking of these people from Africa and the Middle East, sun all year round, warming your shoulders. And they feature airplanes called, with remigration air. So Spirit can do that, and they'd make extra money on YouTube.
Now, I have a question for you. You guys, everybody in this room is well above the intelligence level of me personally. How did we get here with Spirit Air? Because you hear the drum beating that it was Congress that did it. They didn't give them the reparations they deserve, so to speak. I've heard that online. Dean, I'd love your thoughts. Rod, I'd love your thoughts, and then we want to introduce Rez to the program here. So fire away, gentlemen.
Well, first off, they tried to join with JetBlue, which would have given them enough power to go up against the big four airlines. That was slapped down by the Biden administration, the anti-government, anti-everything administration. And, there is too many people in that space. But, when companies combined, you start slashing lots of costs, your admin cost, your overhead cost, your quarters cost. And that was a big drain for Spirit Airlines. And that would have made them profitable and as a combined unit. But, of course, the anti-anything positive group, Elizabeth Warren and that whole bunch, had to shut it down. And I think I think a lot of what these politicians do is they're trying to get airtime. Whatever it takes to get in front of a news camera. And I've said 100 times, the most dangerous place in Washington, D.C. is between a politician and a news crew. That's more dangerous than Baghdad right now. So, I think that's what that was all about. Populists, trying to play up to the ever idiot base that votes for the left. And, there's times when companies need to be restructured. And this is one of them. And now we may end up losing an airline, which will eventually raise prices across the board because there won't be as much competition.
Absolutely. Rod, your thoughts?
There was no good reason in the world for the Biden administration pushed by Elizabeth Warren to block the JetBlue Spirit merger. It was an obvious play. It was good for the airlines. It was good for the country. It probably wasn't good for some major airlines that donate to Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. And it's just really frustrating. And of course, just as we have seen time and time again, now they want to blame it on Donald Trump. Well, if jet fuel hadn't become so expensive. No, that's not the problem. They were heading off this problem. The Democrats made it fester until this company died. And it's just tragic.
That it is. And look, back me up here. Isn't JetBlue based out of Boston? Aren't they a Boston? Aren't they an East Coast? Sure. And doesn't Elizabeth Warren represent the people of Boston in a company in Boston? Am I right there or am I wrong?
I would just say that Zoran Mamdani represents all the billionaires he's trying to run out of New York. So that doesn't seem to matter to Democrats.
Absolutely not. I'm just trying to, and I heard that there was a bunch of stock dumps too about 2 or 3 weeks ago from Spirit Air. So, I mean, right there just tells you the corruption runs deep and solid through the halls of Washington, D.C. That's for damn sure. Dean, can you introduce us to Rez, because she's been sitting here very patiently listening to us banter back and forth about Spirit Air. Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, Rez is first an incredibly close friend. I tell her I love her like her sister on multiple occasions. Wish I'd been raised with her as a sister. We attend a Scott Adams meetup, which is kind of a mastermind group for those that were following Scott Adams. And Rez, this group knows who Scott Adams was. And she happens to be one of the top immigration attorneys in the country. And unlike most immigration attorneys, she's not a liberal, woke, left-wing idiot. So she deeply shares our values, deeply shares our patriotism, deeply shares our belief in a creator. And and I've got the immigrants that are here working for me legally on the TN program, and we've had some stuff come up bubbling. And whenever you get that program going, there's always something under the radar. So she's been helping me with that, and we've just become the closest, dearest friends just almost overnight. So she's been helping all of my team that are from Mexico. She's helping my pastor, who's helping another pastor who's here from Mexico. And telling us what we need to know and how do we work the system. Because unfortunately, as we go through this immigration process that we have to go through, there's going to be some good people get caught up in bad scenarios. And gentleman she's helping us with now sounds like he's in one of those scenarios, but she's found us an easier path out than anybody else has been able to. So,
Rez, the first question I want to pose to Rez is, once I found out you were going to join us on the program, and Rod, I want you to chime in as well. How murky, dark, deep are the waters now as you're trying to find the good people to bring into the country legally? Just out of the gate.
How deep, dark, and murky? One of the refrains that keeps coming up is the wrongful repurpose of visa programs, so intended by the letter of Congress to make for at least better than average selections. And they've been reused to operate a conveyor belt of bringing the basics. Our nation is not here to be a service provider or a development platform or a wealth creation system for people to extract from the nation and take to others. So we need to recenter our immigration program, basically asking, we understand, person, you want to come here, it'll benefit you. What's in it for us in the immediate term and in the longer term? And that's one of the reasons that you see so often there's been back office workarounds through policy, because U.S. immigration law in its black letter, even after the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, was rather exacting and demanding, as a lot of people discovered. That's why the Obama administration was very keen to create this thing out of the ether called DACA, and a number of many other immigration programs along that vein, sometimes as a result of a quiet settlement agreement, from some sort of class action, from some sort of identity advocacy group. But back to your question, how do you select for those who are good candidates for visa programs? The same way that you would for selecting in your jobs, for your businesses, in your employment. I would first say, look in your domestic labor market, right? And the domestic labor market now, through remote technology and through just the way that we've reorganized and reinvented how we work, is really the entire of the U.S. First, look there. If for whatever reason you're lacking, in this world of AI, I have got to think this is going to really rock the immigration world, because if a job is remote, what stops you from remoting in from outside of the U.S.? Offshoring takes a completely different meaning. In this world of AI, then, when the things that are rote and even things that are more creative, you can use these LLMs, these artificial intelligences, to train them to create your machines and engines. So what remains? The remains is putting together machines and systems so that you really find new, novel ways to bring in the three corners of the triangle, right? fast, good, and cheap, right? So now with AI, maybe we have that third hand to hold on to that third corner of the triangle. Now I know, Chuck, that I went well beyond the question, and that's because
That's
I
okay.
myself am
We
thinking
do a
about
majority of the
this.
time around here, Rez. We do a majority of the time.
Well,
but
and let me
right
interject
ahead.
something.
Sure.
When Rez was helping my team this last Saturday over lunch, and by the way, she introduced us, my wife and I, to one of the best Italian restaurants in this part of the country. The food was amazing. She was asking me about how hard it is to hire accountants in the United States. And I said, there's not any. There's only 2 on the street in Paducah, Kentucky, in my town, and I fired both of them. So they're just not on the street. But I put out one job ad in Mexico for someone who will, very high qualified and will move to America, and got 560 resumes. Most of them, or at least half, were very, very well qualified. So, there is a labor pool. I've heard it said, and I tend to agree that we need a new American dream, but it needs to be American and Latin American dream, and shore up our neighbors to the south as part of the Don Road Doctrine. There are some very, very good, high quality, extremely skilled folks in Mexico. I'm getting people here that would be considered the top 1/10 of 1% of Ivy League graduates. When I've got that much of a selection. So you think about the people that I brought over, they competed against 500 plus other candidates who, and realistically, the top 25% are amazing. I wish I could bring every one of them over here, but we'll see what AI does to that plan.
Rod, I know you're chomping at the bit to jump in here. Go ahead, bud.
Well, I'd just say that the world is filled with talented people, and we want them all. We hope they'll all come to America legally. So thank you, Rez, for taking care of that legal part. Illegal aliens have no business being here because they're lawbreakers from the first. And if you're not going through the process, then you're really doing a disservice to all the good people who have gone through all the stuff. It's complicated. It's not easy. And most of the lawyers available aren't that good. So, thank God for Rez. And we have an opportunity in this country to rectify a lot of things. Immigration is clearly top of the list, and the Trump administration's done a great job on that. At the same time, you're exactly right about AI and remote work, and it's going to become less and less necessary for people who want to work here to actually be here unless they just really want to be here. The technology makes that true. It's also true that Mexico is taking a lot of jobs now, not from the United States, but from China. So you're getting better and better employment in Mexico, which means higher standards of living, a better economy, frankly, more available cash to stamp out corruption and fight the cartels. I really believe in the next few years, Mexico is going to be a full-on first world country, and it will be very difficult to remember that it was ever anything else.
That's such a
Well
good
said,
point.
Rez. I look forward to your comments on that. Go ahead, Rez.
That's such a good point that you made about Mexico. It's sort of like pieces fitting into one another because the U.S. excels at the more complex manufacturing. Mexico excels at the mid-tier manufacturing,
Right.
which is the part that was driven in large part out of the U.S. and now it's bouncing all over Asia with China imploding the way that it is. So where does that leave Canada? And I think we need to see, right, the trad NAFTA, not so much. So now we need to see whether the Western provinces, which are very much so engaged in an active and vigorous exercise of deciding where they belong and how they will fit in their future incarnation, how will that be? Will they choose to be independent nations with close affiliation to the U.S.? Will they want to enter some sort of hybrid Commonwealth arrangement with the U.S. where they are not part of the U.S. but belong to the U.S.? sort of ish like Puerto Rico? Or are they going to be additional stars in our flag as states in the Union? Make Alaska contiguous again, right? So who knows what's going to happen from that? But should that occur, we're going to have potentially the super crazy productive economic powerhouses, engines of Canada become part of the American powerhouse. And my imagination runs wild. Do we then need a northern border fence to keep out the eastern provinces out of the greater, larger, expanding United States? I read X and I say to myself, we need a northern wall, but I get ahead of myself. So the world, I am grateful that we live in this world. I'm grateful to our president. The world will be the American oyster for the next century. Let us build something
absolutely
productive
will.
and good, and something that benefits us and our children and our posterity, as it says in our origination documents, and is a force for good in the world.
Now, I have a quick
Absolutely.
question for Mr. Owen here. Why has it taken so long? We're now in May for you to introduce us to Rez. That's going to be the question I have, Dean. I mean, you've been,
Well,
you've just been.
I think he works.
I mean,
He works in strange ways, and he puts me on a path and tells me to go. And when I said go, that was the first time sitting down with Rez over and breaking bread with her was last Saturday, and
phenomenal.
so that on Sunday we had it figured out that we were going to jump on here today.
I love it. Thanks for bringing her into the fold. Now, can we shift gears here, because a lot's been said around the news cycle. We're at war with Iran. We're not at war. They need to take the agreements that we're giving them. Rod, cycle through this for me. Wash it out for me. I want to go to Martin Dry Cleaners and get a clean, firm press shirt that tells me exactly what's going on in Iran right now.
And you can. You need to
Thank
come
you.
to rodmartin.org, where we did a
There it
piece
is.
this morning on why the War Powers Act is utterly unconstitutional, bogus, unenforceable, the whole shebang. And Trump proceeded today to do something new to thwart it. They have officially announced now, Rubio has officially announced that Operation Epic Fury is over. At the same time, the president has said that if the Iranians don't agree to our terms in the next several hours, the bombing will commence and it will be bigger and more beautiful than ever in typical Trumpian fashion. So what does this mean? Well, the War Powers Act unconstitutionally purports to put a 60-day automatic clock on the commander-in-chief, regardless of party's action. This has never really been enforced, and the proof of that is you cannot find more than, Bill Clinton, certainly, lots of these guys, but Barack Obama did airstrikes in Libya for 222 days. I mean, that's not 60, that's not 90. And here was the argument that the Obama administration made legally. This does not rise to the level of hostilities within the meaning of the War Powers Act. It's literally what he said. Well, why did they say that? Well, it's just airstrikes and there are no boots on the ground. So you're talking about Operation Epic Fury. Now, with that said, the Trump administration is playing a little bit different game. They are saying first that you can pause the 60-day clock by having a ceasefire. That's not in the act, but if it went to the courts, I think it would be legitimate. The bigger point is the courts, if they addressed it at all, would probably overturn the War Powers Act almost in its entirety. The 48-day notification requirement, of course, would stand. But now we're just saying, that was a different war. If we have another war with Iran tomorrow, it will be a different war. Well, okay, that's clearly subversive of the act's plain intent, but the act's plain intent was unconstitutional from the beginning. It was a fraud for the purpose of Democrats in Congress shifting blame for Vietnam onto Richard Nixon after he sorted out the mess they made. And that's all it's ever been.
Rod, did I tee you up nicely about your Martin report today? Because I read it right before we went on the air, and you gave us the Rod Note version of it. I love that. So, how can people subscribe? Because we're running up against a hard clock here. How can people subscribe to the Martin report?
Well, you need to come to rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org, where we do daily geopolitical analysis. Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. We've got tens of thousands of subscribers there. We've got hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. There's a reason. So come to rodmartin.org.
Excellent. Dean Owen, if you could right now tell us where we can get in touch with you. And then Rez, I want to figure out where we can get in touch with you. Go ahead, Dean.
First, let me put on a couple of things, and I don't do
Go
this
ahead.
to pat ourselves on the back, but
Go ahead.
The Freedom Chamber, you get actual information that's legit.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia and the UAE are talking about putting boots in Iran. And 3 weeks ago, we said there may be boots in Iran, but they just may not be American boots. So check box. We talk about all kinds of things here, and you get accurate information that is predictable, it's reliable, and it's quantifiable. And that's what you're getting, and that's what the chamber's putting out. That's what chamber members need so that they can make decisions and look forward. Because if you're not getting this information, if you're not getting Rod's information, you're missing the world. You're not understanding how this world really works. As far as my team goes, I keep saying it, owencpa.com. Jump online, connect with my team. The conversation and friendship are completely free, and let's figure out a way to disinherit the government and not your kids.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And Rez, where can we find you, our newfound friend?
Well, I'm grateful. Thank you, everybody. I am at the Lisenbee Law Firm, LISONBEE, Immigration Law. You can find us by conducting a search and reach out to us there.
Well, we hope to have you back on very soon. And Rod and Dean, your batting average is well above. I put us around 800, 850 right now, our batting average, if not better, on things that we've talked about that have now starting to unwind and come true. So, Rez, you're in good company here, and we're happy to have you as part of the family now here at the Freedom Chamber. And Dean and Rod, once again, great insight, great work, boys. Appreciate you guys very much. FreedomChamber.net, that's where you can find us. If you're not a member, you need to join. Rod and Dean, I appreciate you guys. Rez, one more time, thank you. Healthcare costs are crushing America's small businesses. Premiums have risen over 240% in the last decade, forcing companies to choose between growth and healthcare coverage. The Freedom Chamber, found online at freedomchamber.net, has a better solution: the Guardianship Healthcare Plan. Designed by a doctor who understands that strong care starts with a strong doctor-patient relationship. This plan puts people first while protecting your bottom line. With up to 45% annual premium savings, the Guardianship Plan delivers real care, real savings, and real freedom. Your business, your employees, your health plan needs the Guardianship. The Freedom Chamber Guardianship Plan. Get your quote today. Learn how your business can take control of healthcare. Visit freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network.